Hi. So this is the fourth video on addictions in this series of videos on addiction. And in this video, we're going to talk about the cycle of addiction. If you haven't watched the third video, you should go back and do that now because otherwise this won't make a whole lot of sense. So this is the cycle of addiction as created or written by or thought of by Patrick Carnes. We talked about him in the last video. And I'm going to define these spots in the cycle. So the first spot here on the cycle is preoccupation. And preoccupation basically means thought, it's thinking. So if we're preoccupied with something, we're thinking about it. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about preoccupation. You can't make thoughts not enter your mind. But there are other things we can do, and we'll talk about that. And we'll talk more about ritual in a little bit. Ritual is probably one of the more important ideas that Carnes has here. And what he says is that ritual is a trance-like state that we enter. We go through the motions, or the addict goes through the motions, both knowing that they will use and also believing that they won't. It's a very interesting idea. And Carnes says that once an addict has entered into this state, they're doomed to use. And we'll explain that more as we go on. Here we have use, and there's no, use is use. This is using the drug or the substance or the process. After use, we see despair, disappointment, despair, regret, right? And typically, the way that we move out of despair is by moving back into preoccupation and thinking about the addiction. So let's go back to that scenario that I gave you with the birthday and the chocolate cake. So typically when I ask students when they think the person got to the point of no return, and the point of no return is right here. It's between preoccupation and ritual. Once the person, ritual is the point of no return. I'm sorry. Ritual is the point of no return. We have to disrupt somewhere in here. But at what point in that scenario do you think that the person entered into the ritual, into this place where you were doomed to eat that cake? And, sometimes students say when you took it out of the fridge, when you looked at it, when you took the cover off, when everybody went home and you didn't throw it out. And I would argue that the moment of no return was at the decision to make the cake. Preoccupation is the thought. The thought is, I should make a chocolate cake. The next thought should be, that's a really dumb thought. But it's not. It's like, oh, good idea. That's when it's a problem. The decision to actually go ahead and do it. Everything after that is in the trance-like state where the person is both playing, think of it as a drug, they're kind of playing with their drug and also believing that they're safe, they're not going to use. And also knowing that they're going to use. It's this weird in-between state. If I had made this scenario, instead of making a chocolate cake for your partner, let's say it was your partner's birthday and your partner's not an alcoholic, but you are, and you've got 3 months of sobriety, and you decide that for your partner's birthday, you're going to throw them a wine tasting party. You're going to get all these wines in these different, boxes and all these different, I don't know much about wine, tastes and flavors of wine, and have a big party full of cases of wine. And then everybody's going to go home and there's going to be all this leftover wine that you're then going to store in your basement. That would sound a lot worse, wouldn't it, than just the cake and the diet. Um, and it would be clearer that the decision to go ahead with that is pretty doomed. So it's one thing to have the idea, I should throw a wine tasting party. You can't help that. That came in. The next idea should be, that's a terrible idea. If it's not, and we move into the decision to do it, then you're already in the ritual and you're pretty much doomed. So the trick is to recognize that thinking pattern and to disrupt it. And what people do in 12-step programs and other recovery programs is they create a support system around themselves. They create skills and tools so that if they have the brilliant idea, they have somebody to call and say, hey, I just had this really stupid idea. I just thought of throwing a wine tasting party. And that's when your friend in recovery in your program comes over and says, let's go do something else. Let's figure something else out. I like using the example of, let's say you have, your friend who is in that terrible relationship and they're always making up and breaking up. And every time they break up, your friend hangs out with you. And when they make up, you don't see your friend for a while. And this time your friend calls you, I'll make her a she. She's broken up with her boyfriend and that's it, she's done. And this time it is so convincing. She is completely done with him. Like, done. There's, I don't even like him. I don't miss him. She really seems convinced. And she gets on with her life and she's doing great. She's gone back to school and really throwing herself into it and taking care of herself, going to the gym. She's been hanging out with you more, doing things. Great, And one day you text her, she doesn't respond, no big deal. You text her again, no biggie. After a couple of days of not hearing from her, you text again and she gets back to you. And you say, hey, what's going on? Where are you? And she says, I'm at his apartment. And you say, wait, what happened? I thought you were done. I thought you guys were completely done. And she says to you, well, yeah, And you say, what happened? And she says, I don't know. I was cleaning up my apartment and I found a textbook of his and I decided to bring it back and I came over to his apartment and, and then I've been here for 3 days now. But it's different this time. Everything's different and it's going to be so much better. So you've been there either yourself or with your friend. And I'm going to put you in the situation of you're the friend, you see the book, you're cleaning up your apartment, and you decide to return it to him. That's the moment of preoccupation. That's the idea. That's the thought. What you don't do is call your friend who you know will stop you. You don't do anything to stop yourself. You think that you're going to return the book and that there won't be a problem. You think that you can actually do this and not get back together again. At the same time, you also kind of take a shower and put on something nice. And you drive over to his apartment. And I would argue that while you're driving over there, you both know that you're going to get back with him, and you think that you're completely safe from getting back with him. And that's what Carnes is talking about when he talks about this stage, this phase in the cycle of addiction that is the ritual. It's a trance-like state where the addict is going towards their drug, knowing that they're going towards it, but also believing that they are fine. And I'm going to end this little talk on the cycle of addiction here. Thank you all.